of the signal as well as the overall gain of the signal produced. And so after this four diagrams, dito na nagkakaiba yung AM receiver sa FM receiver between this five diagrams indeed. So proceeding to the limiter, after ma-amplify yung 10.7 MHz signal natin, the function of the limiter, of course, in frequency modulation, amplitude must not vary. So kasi ang nag-vary lang dapat mismo doon sa FM, dahil nga FM ay yung frequency, dapat hindi nagagalaw, dapat stable yung amplitude na meron yung signal. So upon receiving the signal kasi, hindi may iwasan yung amplitude variations since merong noise or interference na i-introduce during the process. So that is the function of the limiter. So ang function ng limiter is to avoid the amplitude variations or the increase and decrease of the amplitude. So it is unnecessary kasi amplitude modulation. So pag nangyari yon, magkakaroon tayo ng distortions and undesired noises. So the next stage after the limiter is the discriminator. So the function discriminator, ang counterpart niya sa AM receiver block diagram is yung demodulator or yung detector. So its function here in FM receiver is to use it uses the reactance modulator actually, and it first converts the frequency variations into amplitude variations, and then this determinator then uses detector circuit. So it extracts the original modulated signal and it recovers the original signal or original radio transmitted by the transmitter. So next stage naman is yung de-emphasis. So before we discuss the de-emphasis, it's important to note that meron din tayong pre-emphasis. The difference between the two, the pre-emphasis and the emphasis, is that in pre-emphasis, this circuitry is used for FM transmitter, while the emphasis is used in FM receivers. So what pre-emphasis does is to amplify the high frequency audio frequency signal. So here naman, oppositely, ang function ni the emphasis dito sa FM receiver is to attenuate or decrease or normalize the boosted or amplified high frequency audio frequency signal performed by the pre-emphasis circuit on the transmitter. The emphasis circuit is also a simple low-pass filter with a cut-off frequency of 6.12 kHz to cancel the noise, just to filter the extra noises or other unnecessary signals that may affect the quality of the audio. So meron siya cut-off frequency of 6.12 kHz. So i-note natin. Frequency of 6.12 kilohertz. So ayan. So the de-emphasis circuit performs the demodulation itself, which produces the original audio signal transmitted by the transmitter. So the emphasis siya na rin yung nagde-demodulate, kumbaga nagbabalik ng original signal or original audio coming from the transmitter. So the next one is the audio amplifier. So we all know the function of the audio amplifier is to amplify the output signal coming from the previous block, which is the de-emphasis, by the audio amplifier to increase the strength and power of the AF signal, and that is then to be thrown to a loudspeaker. It's also important to note that the audio amplifier block consists of AF and power amplifier. So, hindi lang AF, meron din siyang power amplifier. So, bakit? Kasi we cannot directly throw the signal to the speaker since may impedance yung speaker natin. So, kailangan natin i-amplify yung power ng signal coming from the emphasis block. So, ayan. And then, after ma-amplify yung power and AF signal ng original audio, pwede na natin siyang ibato dito sa speaker, and then maririnig natin original audio and yung output. So, paano naman tong AGC detector? Ano naman function nito? AGC stands for Automatic Gain Control Detector. So, already ito optional, pero AGC detector is actually then necessary for the whole circuitry of FM receiver, since it is necessary for us to have an ideal output. The function of automatic gain control is to avoid overload that leads to distortion. This is because pwedeng magkaroon tayo ng input signal na very high input signal. So, very high input signal could cause very high gain, and then too much or overload of signal causes distortion. And the second function of this automatic gain control is to turn its another function is, dahil we tune from one station to another, it produces variations in signal strength, which we don't want along the process. So it prevents or attenuates or amplify the signal whenever it is increased or decreased coming from the output signal of the receiver. So, ayun, signal pwedeng naglilipad tayo ng frequency, nag-tune tayo, yung may iwasan yung increase and decrease of the output signal. Kaya siya yung nagbabalance, nagdi-decrease or nag-increase din ng variations dun sa frequency na yan. So, in summary of the process that we have in Super Heterodyne FM Receiver. So, first, in RF amplifier, it amplifies the voltage signal intercepted coming from the antenna, and then the RF amplifier is in tune with the local oscillator, which ito yung nag-a-adjust your local oscillator, which also has the fixed frequency of 98.7 MHz to 118.7 MHz. While ang frequency naman ng FM na intercept natin ay yung 88 MHz to 108 MHz, which is when pag pinasok sa mixer, which adds or subtracts both frequencies coming from the RF amplifier and local oscillator, we could produce 10.7 MHz. From 98.7 MHz subtracted to 88 MHz and 118.7 MHz minus 108 MHz, both produce 10.7 MHz. So, ang mixer ay nag-add or subtract ng frequency. So, ang difference lang ang kino-consider since yung sum ng both frequencies ay filter ng circuit. So, then, So from the 10.7 megahertz signal, which will then be amplified by the IF amplifier. So its role is to increase the selectivity and stability of the intercepted signal or the output signal of 10.7 megahertz, as well as the overall gain of the receiver. Then after nun, magpo-proceed na siya sa limiter, which prevents the increase or decrease in amplitude of the signal, which is what we don't want here in the circuit, since frequency modulation lang yung kailangan natin. So again, amplitude variations are caused by noise or other interference. So after limiter, it will proceed to discriminator, which is the counterpart of detector or demodulator in AM receiver. The modulator uses detector circuit, which extracts the original modulated signal. It recovers the modulated signal from the limiter. After discriminator, it will proceed to the emphasis, which attenuates the boosted high frequency audio frequency signal produced by the pre-emphasis of the transmitter. So the de-emphasis circuit also has low pass filter with a cutoff frequency of 6.12 kHz just to cancel the noise. The de-emphasis circuit performs a demodulation, which then recovers or processes the original audio signal transmitted by the transmitter, which will then be sent into the audio amplifier, which amplifies the AF and the power of that original audio to be thrown into the speaker. And again, the important role of AGC or automatic gain control is to avoid overload that leads to the distortion of the signal in case the received signal strength is very high. And its another function is to um, avoid the increase and decrease of the signal strength when we are tuning from one station to another. So that is how basically the Super Heterodyne FM transceiver works, from RF amplifier to audio amplifier and speaker. That is how the circuit or the FM receiver uh, re- uh, recovers the information signal, or indeed process the signal. So that is all for this video. I hope you learned something, and thank you for listening.